Uh, it says I cannot start screen share while an other or participant is sharing, Daryl. Are you able to help me out with that?
Well,
Thank
I
you, sir.
believe so. I don't think people would like to see my screen. My apologies.
Not a
Now,
problem.
now take her away.
Appreciate it. Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me. My name is Allison Ostrander. Like Daryl said, I am the Director of Risk Tolerance here at Simpler Trading, and I am very excited to talk to you guys about my 15-minute morning strategy. It is a great strategy that I've been using quite often that only takes 15 minutes of my days to set up. And so it's responsible for some of my biggest wins, but more importantly, it's one of the most consistent strategies I have traded to date. And so I'm excited to share it with you guys here today. Now, of course, disclosure, everything's about risk. We always have to be mindful of our risk as traders. And so I always try and keep that at the forefront of my trading. Past results, of course, cannot predict future results, but as of to date, this strategy has worked out really well for me, which is why I felt the need to share it with everybody else here today as well. So, right, how to trade the first 15 of the market and then walk away. Well, as I mentioned earlier, you only need 15 minutes to trade this. Every morning, I start with this one setup. I jump on the room in the small lots room here at Simpler Trading, and we walk through the setup together. And as long as it's a valid trade day, we oftentimes are taking the setup as well. This is a trade chart setup that has been back tested for the last 4 years. It is one of the most repeatable strategies that I trade, and I've used it to grow both small and large accounts with a very defined risk. As of today, the win rate on this is 72% actually, so a little bit better from when I had created this slide. And I have been able to lock up to 300% returns on the original risk invested and have walked away with some really nice winners. And so if you understand where this open is each morning, and you have this little window of time to get it set up, it's pretty easy then in turn to get this consistent profit target in. And it's been a really great setup. Like I mentioned, there's no subjectivity behind it. And that's, I think, one of the best things about trading this. So here's a real life trade example that I've done. All of the examples that I'm showing here tonight are trades that I've actually taken and have alerted out to the small bots room. Just last December, for example, I used this strategy to turn a debit spread, as you can see here, starting at 155, and created a butterfly. By doing this, I was able to lock in a small profit off the initial trigger of the move until it ended up reaching target a little bit later that morning. At the end of the day on SPX, I also was able to get the cash settlement on this trade for an additional bonus profit of $4.19. So it was very nice because, like I said, it's a very clear and mechanical type of strategy. It's very robotic. There's no subjectivity behind it. My answer for the trigger, the target, the entry, the exit is the same as yours. It's the same as the next person in the room. And so it's a very great strategy that you can jump in on without having that subjectivity on if it's a good chart or not. And this isn't just theoretical. Like I said, these are real trades that I've taken and alerted in my accounts. And I'm not the only one to have taken it. Mr. John Carter himself has traded this setup, which was exciting to see. He did the future side of it. And of course, his account is much larger than mine. So he had a bit higher of a risk tolerance than I do, but he was able to make a quick 31K following the exact same setup that I look forward to teaching all of you. And you might ask yourself, well, John's account is huge. Am I able to trade this in a small account? Absolutely. I've traded accounts as small as $500. So this is definitely a strategy that you can trade in a small account. And like I mentioned, it is a trade that I put on almost every morning over in the small lots room where we take this strategy together each day. And so who is this for? Well, whether you're balancing a 9 to 5 job, like myself, or maybe you're parenting, right? Also like myself, then You may not also want to watch the charts all day, right? You might be in semi-retirement mode. You want to go out on the golf course, enjoy the day, go about your hobbies, things like that. All of those, if you answered yes to even one of them, then this strategy is for you. It's mechanical, it's repeatable, and it removes the emotion from trading. And once again, you do not need to be at the charts all day. For example, on the setup that we had this morning, I took a early entry. I had a favorable fill on both the futures and the option side. The futures gave me a quick win before I left to drop off the kids for school. And then on my way to school, I took the win on the SPX side of the trade. I wasn't even in front of my computers when I was able to lock in that profit. And so it's really nice because you can set it up all within the first 15 minutes and then go about your day. And one of the best parts about this strategy is you do not need any indicators. There is no indicators involved whatsoever. You can simply get all this information off of a simple bar chart. So even if you're someone who is brand new to trading, that is learning options and trading, and it provides a very straightforward trade to keep you engaged, and maybe having some fun while you're learning the basics and some of the more advanced techniques around swing trading and things like that. And it's an extra plus because, like I said, you don't have to have any indicators for this trade. And I'll show you certainly with some more examples here coming up. But you might be asking yourself, why listen to me? Well, as I mentioned, and as Daryl mentioned, I am the director of risk tolerance here at Simpler Trading. I'm also a full-time trader and mother. I am three kids under five, so it is a constant battle in my house with noises and wrestling around and everything like that. It kind of gets crazy over here. So I have to find that right work-life balance so that I'm still able to be there for the kids, be there for the family, but at the same time, find a way to make that income so I'm not relying on the man in order to support myself and to support my kids and my husband. So this is built for small accounts. It's tested for all traders and all size accounts, so you can scale up. That's one of the nice things about this trade. Even if you have a large account, you can scale up in contract size and still be able to trade it, very much like John did. And I have well over a decade, almost 20 years now of experience trading. So I've been doing this for quite some time. I've been on the education side of trading almost as long as I've been trading. And so I've really been able to hone in a way to explain some of these more advanced strategies and break them down for newer traders, as well as maybe traders who have struggled getting a grasp and getting started in the past. My specialties include, like I mentioned, explaining complex trading strategies and chart patterns for both beginner traders and advanced traders. So what is the problem? Maybe some of you guys have run into this. I know these are some problems I ran into early on in my trading as well. But you might have struggled with information overload. I know I did when I first started trading. I do not come back from a financial background whatsoever. I'm actually a theater major. And so the only thing I knew when I first started to learn how to trade was you buy low, sell high, right? Trading, especially options, kind of has its own language around it. And so if you're brand new to trading, especially if you're really brand new like I was, sometimes that can kind of be an information overload. Another thing I hear traders oftentimes struggle with, whether they're just getting started or whether they've been trading for over 10 years, is consistency, right? Sometimes you get those really big wins and then you have a huge loss and it eats everything up, right? And so you can have these kind of huge roller coaster fluctuations in your account, and that can be really frustrating. And like I mentioned, that's one of the nice things about this strategy is the consistency behind it. And then, of course, having to understand the macro, right? Sometimes when you're doing swing trades, you have to understand what the Fed's doing, what the tariffs happening around. And so the nice thing about this strategy is you wake up each morning starting fresh. There's no need to care about what's happening on the overnight move. You don't even have to worry about the trend. That's why I literally have zero indicators on my charts when trading this setup, because it is purely based off the first 15 minutes of open. There's no clear plan or simple rules. Sometimes you just jump into a trade and you have what I like to call hopium, right? Where you're just kind of hoping it works out. You throw your money and hope it sticks at the wall and gives you a little bit more in return. And that's not the case. This strategy is very structured. It has a clear, strict set of rules to be able to apply. And as I mentioned, the rules don't change. They're not subjectivity behind it to where, my rule's a little bit different from you. No, if you're following the rules, it's very straightforward. And then indecisiveness on getting in and out of a trade, right? Have you ever taken a big loss and then have kind of become paralyzed in being able to jump into a trade? You kind of get stuck on the high dive, questioning whether or not to take the jump to put that capital risk out there. I know I've been there myself. I know my dad's been there himself. That was one of the big hurdles he had to get past from a psychological point of view. And so if you've ever been struck with that indecisiveness, this is a really great strategy because, as I mentioned, it's simple, it's consistent, and it's straightforward, and it doesn't take a lot of time for you to be able to implement it each day and try and grow that account. And so sometimes there's a problem underneath those other problems, and they all kind of have that same thing in common, right? The real problem is not having that simple and consistent plan to be able to trade with. So the nice thing about this is, like I mentioned, you only need the first 15 minutes. That first 15-minute bar gives you all the information you need on what your stop is, what your target, what your entry, your exit, if there's a reversal. And then, of course, there's a set of rules behind what creates a valid trade day. But all of that information, if it is a valid trade day, all of it comes within that first 15-minute bar. And it's a clear directional break, giving you that trade opportunity. So once I see the clear break above or below, it's time to jump into the trade. And it's a very nice defined risk, right? So you're not fluctuating that risk around. You know what you're jumping in when you get into it. Like I mentioned, I'm very, very mindful of capital risk. That's always at the forefront of my trading. It's the very first thing that I focus on. And so that's why I really like this trade, because whether you're trading it on futures or you're trading it on SPX, it still allows for really nice profits while managing that capital risk. So it's been pretty nice. And here's an example of how nice it's been, right? I made some graphs showing the consistency behind this. As I mentioned, our win rate has actually increased a little bit since I've made these graphs. So our win rate is now 72% to date, and our losing rate is 28%. So the nice thing about this is it's very consistent, right? Our winners have outweighed our losers. But more importantly, I would say, on top of that really nice win rate, is the average winner has been greater than the average loser. And that's really important. That's where the mindfulness around risk and risk structure comes in. Because if you don't have a good risk versus reward structure in a trade, as I mentioned, you could get a whole set of winners, right? 10 winners, and then you might have one losing trade. And if your risk versus reward parameters don't look right, that one loser could easily wipe out all of those winners and bring your account back down. So the really nice thing about this strategy is not only does it have a really good win rate in general, but the average winner offsets the average loser. And that's what's helped make this strategy so profitable for me in my trading since I've started doing it. And so here's a chart trade example. These were all trades we took in the small lots room. So every day you see that there is a valid trigger. It was a trade that we took and alerted out. So this, for example, was towards the end of February going into March. I'm trying to show you guys a lot of different examples throughout me trading this strategy from back in November all the way to this week to show you that it trades in all different market environments and has been successful in all of these different markets. So as you can see here, we had a trigger to go short, and then the target was hit only a few bars later. Here was a no trade day per the rules, and that's something that I teach on what consists of a valid trade day. And certainly this helped you from getting chopped out and taking a loss. Here we had a valid trigger once again to go short. Our target was met within the next bar, so very quick turnaround. And then here was our trigger and entry to go short. And once again, that target was met within the next bar. So that just kind of shows you the consistency of one trading week and how often it has worked for us over in the small lots room. And then, of course, like I mentioned, there are rules behind these trades. So this is for someone who can't decide whether to stay in or cut away, right? Again, rules are very important. And so the nice thing about this is you have a clear structure of rules. You're not second guessing yourself. You have the decisions already made for you within the template. So for example, this was a no trade day. It already told me that this is not a day I should be trying to trade because more often than not, it means I could end up losing my money that day. So it's just better to skip it. And it was correct, right? So we initially had a trigger to go long. That would have gotten stopped out here and triggered a valid reversal signal to try and go short. As you can see, we didn't get much lower than that. And then it bounced back up and you got stopped out on the short side. So following the rules to the strategy, if you tried to apply them to the no trade day, it wouldn't have worked out. So in the long run, it helps save you money, ideally. Or at least it has to date, certainly. And as I mentioned, no indicators needed. As you can see on all of these chart examples, I don't have any indicators. I do not use them. If anything, they've sometimes kept me from taking a bigger win, and I've protected my profits and my risk a little bit too soon and end up leaving money on the table. So that's why I've taken all my indicators off of the charts. And here was a fill back on April 21st. So this is literally a trade I took this week. Once again, alerted in the small lots room. So if you're already in there, you guys probably followed along with this trade. We got a valid entry to go short, and then we hit the target within the next 15-minute bar. So very quick turnaround. As you can see, the trade for me triggered at 8:47. That's where I got filled. At 2:05, locked in a 45-cent profit. Less than 13, certainly less than 15 minutes later, and made a nice win that morning for the day. Here's an example of January 30th. Now, of course, not every trade is going to be a winner, right? Like I mentioned, 28% of the time they don't work out. But the idea is trying and to reduce the capital risk as much as possible so that average winner can still offset that average loser. And so on this trade, I'll show you guys the chart here in a second, but I originally got the trigger to end up going long. I got stopped out on the long side, right? So I got stopped out, immediately went to protect my capital risk. And then on that stop, it also gave me a valid reversal entry to try and go short. So I jumped in short, and on the short side, I end up meeting my 20-point target. Now, if you were trading January 30th, that setup that day on futures, you probably walked away with an overall winner, depending on what your stop was. On the options, though, at least based on my fills, I was only able to reduce my risk down to 55 cents. Now, I'll take a 55-cent penny day over $1.85 at the start of the trade. So more than happy to have shrunk my risk down to 55 cents. And that way, once again, my profits, at least to date, have outweighed my losers. And so, as I mentioned, not every trade is going to go perfectly, but that's why we have rules around knowing what to do and when to do it. So here, as I mentioned, was the chart setup. This was our initial trigger to go long, and it did get a decent move. So maybe some of you guys took the early win, and that, could have helped you out. But I try and stay strict to the rules because, like I said, usually when I cover too soon, I'm oftentimes leaving money on the table. And then here, we got stopped. That was also our valid reversal entry to go short. And then a little bit later that morning before 10, our target on the reversal was met, and you walked away that day either with a smaller loss on options or a profit on futures. And so here's another example. This is a trade I did once again in April, when it was that extremely volatile week where we had those 500-point ranges. And I was still able to lock in a profit. Now on SPX, it wasn't necessarily a very big profit because of how crazy the volatility was on the option side. But the nice thing is I was still able to cover my risk, create a bonus trade, and take a small win. On the future side, I didn't even wait that day for us to hit target. I definitely left money on the table. I took the quick one when I saw it because of how crazy the market was moving. Once again, I'm always keeping risk at the forefront of my trading. So I definitely left money on the table on the future side. But you can see we had the entry here, and then within the same bar, we hit target. So it was a very quick trade that morning, but a very quick win too to start the day. It was very nice. No complaints. And then here's another one. This is an example from back in November. And the reason why I pulled one back this far is, as I pull up the SPX chart here, right? This shows you guys a good example of how consistent this strategy has been in kind of a whole bunch of different market environments. So back in November, going into December, you'd look at this as more of an average bullish market, right? That's what we had seen all of last year. Then we start to get into some consolidation, get a little bit of volatility, but it's kind of this choppy range here, still profitable on the strategy. Then we get that tighter range of consolidation, still profitable. Then we start to pick up in volatility. We saw that in March, still profitable that month. And then, of course, we had the extreme volatility, which is where you saw that last trade example from, where I took the quick win on futures and had the small win on SPX. And as of April today, still profitable. So it's really nice, the consistency that we've had in all of these different types of market environments. And as I mentioned, the chart setup itself has been back tested for over 4 years. So we know in the last 4 years, we've had a market like 2022, we had a market like 2023, 2024, we're seeing the market this year. And each year, the strategy has continued to show success in growing an account. So what are some key takeaways? You only need to focus on one chart for the strategy. So that's really great for beginners or people who don't want to have to deal with scans and trying to find a setup. Does this chart look good? Does this look like it's going to move? All of that guesswork is taken out of it. We focus solely on the ES and in turn SPX with this strategy if you're trading the option side of it. You don't have to worry about overnight moves, right? That's one of the nice things. You don't have to worry about random tariff announcements through the weekend. You don't have to worry about necessarily, a Fed randomly coming out to speak overnight or some sort of action happening to cause a gap move. No, none of that matters. You start the day fresh. So as I mentioned, it's really great because you don't have to necessarily focus on any sort of trend, right? If you're one of those people that struggle to identify what kind of trend you might be in a certain chart pattern, you don't have to worry about that with this. There's none of that is involved. You don't have any guesswork around that. It really doesn't even matter because once again, all of that information you need is very structured and comes within the first 15 minutes of market each morning. So as long as you can dedicate 15 minutes of your time at the start of each trading day, then you have a viable strategy that you're able to trade each morning. And so it's not just me that has done well trading this strategy. Here are some people from the small lots room who has been trading it, the last several months with me. As I said, I started alerting these trades back in November and December of last year. I've been trading it prior to that. And so a lot of people have been finding success, have been very happy with how the strategy has been working, happy with the consistency behind the strategy. And so that's why I really want to share it with you guys today. So as I mentioned, there are strict rules to follow. There's no guesswork. As I mentioned, this strategy on both the future side and SPX has been back tested now for quite some time. It works well with small accounts using options. And of course, on the future side, you can trade with micros. It works with larger accounts using futures. So if you just want to trade the minis, it works beautifully. That's what I did this morning for a quick $1,000 win in the futures account that I have. And it removes the guesswork. I know what my trigger is. I know what my stop is. I know what my target is. And I know what my trading plan is. So it's a great strategy. I love how robotic it is. I only need to be available at the open start of each day. So it's nice because, like I said, today I had some profits taken when I was dropping the kids off of school. I don't have to sit here in front of my computer all day. All I really need to do if I want to trade this strategy successfully is just dedicate that first 15 minutes of my time each morning to gather the information I need in order to take the trade setup. And like I said, it has a really great track record. We've seen that consistency, at least to date, show up with that 72% win rate. We've seen where the average winner to date still offsets the average loser. And so it's been really nice growing our account with this and having it work in all market environments, as I showed y'all on the SPX charts. So if you want to simplify your trading routine, right, you might be asking yourself, is this something for me? Well, if you're just getting started in trading and want to start with a simple strategy to focus on just one chart, right? And That's not to say you don't want to learn other strategies necessarily, but if you want to start simple and then as you're trying to grow your account, dabble in some other things, then this strategy is for you. If you're busy throughout the day, certainly like I am, and only have 15 minutes to spare of prep time, then absolutely this is for you. If you're busy working your full-time job, if you just don't want to sit in front of your computer, right? Doesn't matter what the reason is. If you have 15 minutes of time that you can spare, then this strategy is for you. And if you're tired of not being consistent on your trading, like I said, that is the biggest complaint I hear from traders all the time is that they just cannot consistently grow their account. They can grow it for a bit and then all of a sudden they have some losses and it drags it back down. And that fluctuation of their account can be really frustrating. So if you've felt that frustration before, I know I have too. Early on in my trading career, I get it. If you're looking for that consistency, then this strategy is for you. And if you want to find financial freedom, right? If you don't want to have to rely on demand, if you want a way to be able to grow your account, to make yourself some extra income, maybe grow your savings, then this strategy is for you. As I said, I have technically no financial background whatsoever. When I first started to learn how to trade, I trade with a small account. I have limited time between all the things I need to take my kids to. And so this has been one of my favorite strategies to date to trade because of how well it's worked out and how little time I actually have to spend in front of my computer in order to trade it successfully. So if you're interested in learning the strategy that we have been doing in the small lots room, and maybe you are in the small lots room and you really want to learn more about it, you want to have all the information right in front of you and a list of diving in to how I choose the strikes I do, the setup, what the trigger is, how do I identify the entry, the exit, all of that. Then feel free to come join me this Saturday for the class. For the basic package, this is $297. This is already showing a $100 discount, which will only last until April 26th, the day of the class. So if you're interested in just the strategy, so that way you can teach yourself how to fish, the basic package is at $297. The pro package, if you want to trade with me, instead of doing live trading days, I thought it would be better just to have you guys come into the small lots room and join me. Because as I said, I am doing this strategy in there almost every morning. As long as it's a valid trade day, I'm on the mic and we're walking through it together, oftentimes getting the fills on the mic together in real time as I'm sending out the alerts. So if you want to have the class and also be able to trade this strategy with me in real time for the next few months, then consider the pro package, which is at $697, where you get the 15-minute class, as well as everything that comes with a quarterly subscription to the small lots trading room. And that's not just including this strategy, that includes all my swing strategies. I'm on the mic at least twice a day, more often than not. So you get all the time that I'm on the mic talking through things. I do daily updates. You get the mobile app alert push. So all of that comes with the small lot trading room. And so you'll basically get that quarterly subscription as a discount on top of getting the class itself on Saturday. And if you really like this idea, if you really want to hone in your skills, show that that consistency that's been there continues to work itself into the next year, and you really want to follow to hone in your skills, then the elite package might be for you. Come join me for the next year. It includes, of course, the class on Saturday, as well as the small lots trading room, but at an annual subscription. So it's a really nice discount from what that annual subscription would normally be. You, of course, get the class. And then for the next year, you can join me every morning as we look to take this setup together, confirm whether or not it's a valid trade day. And if it's a valid trade day, we jump into it, right? So if you're interested in signing up, now if you're already a member of Simpler, we do have membership discounts. So please make sure you are logged into the Simpler website before you sign up. If you think you should have that membership discount and you're not seeing it, please don't hesitate to call into customer support. They are more than happy to help you out to make sure that you're paying the price that you should be paying. But if you're a member of Simpler, whether it's in the small lots room, the central room, any membership whatsoever, you do have an additional discount on top of the $100 off. So the basic package is only $247 for you. The pro package is $597, which once again includes the class and the quarterly subscription. and the elite package, which is the class and the annual subscription to the small lot room for a year. And as I mentioned, I'm on the mic quite a bit. Uh, you'll get a lot. So of course, I'll teach you everything that you need to know about this opening bar setup. I'll teach you all the rules behind it, both for options and futures. I'll talk about the profit recycling system. Some of you guys might be familiar with that, but if you're not, don't worry. The profit recycling is basically how I avoid the pattern day trading rule, trading this with options in my small account. So all of that will be taught as well. And then I'll teach you how to trade this both with SPX, but as well as futures, depending on your account and what you choose to trade. And of course, we'll walk through live trade breakdowns. So can you imagine, right? Just waking up, opening your chart, placing one trade, and then being done for the day? It's a pretty great feeling. Like I said, when I got the quick $1,000 this morning in my futures account, part of me was just like, okay, I'm done. Like I'm walking away. I'm definitely good for the day after getting that win. And so if you want that feeling, right, want to try it out, then certainly come and join me with this class so I can teach you all of the rules around this setup. And come join me in the small lot room and we can put on that trade together each morning. I'd certainly love to see you guys in the class so that you can learn to fish for yourself. I have loved this strategy a lot. But I want to, part of the reason I'm at Simpler, part of my joy is being able to teach it to others. When I first did theater, actually, I thought I would be going in to teach theater. And then when I found trading, it just blew up into the second passion of mine. I love it. Some of you guys might know when I had my kids, I was trading in the hospital because my daughter came early. So I was just sitting there with a newborn, exiting my trades. So I love trading. But I also love teaching and I love being able to share this with everybody because it's such a good tool to have, right? It's a great way to be able to make a passive income, to be able to support yourself, to not have to rely necessarily on a 9 to 5 to be able to grow your account or grow your savings, or even make some spare money to go on holiday with your kids. So if you're interested in that and you want to learn more, not only about this strategy, but some of the other strategies that I trade, then come join us in the small lot trading room. And it's not just me in there, it's also John Carter. So last year, John was teaching his daughter Avery on how to grow a small account. He remembered how much fun it was. He was able to grow a very nice profit, doubling an $11,000 account in just 3.5 months. And so now his goal has been to try and double that account in the small lots trading room. So he's been posting his trades over there as well. He's had some really nice wins actually recently. So if you're interested in following along, not only on this strategy on the 15-minute trades, if you're not just interested in maybe some of the other swing trades that I do or my overnight trades, maybe you're interested in following along with John Carter's trades, then the pro or elite package might be a good deal for you because not only are you going to get the class to teach you about this 15-minute strategy, but you're also going to be able to either sign up for a quarterly or an annual subscription to the small lot room at a discounted rate and then have all of those live trading days. So like I said, I'm on the mic quite a bit throughout the weekend there. We both send out real-time trade alerts. I'm always, oftentimes in the chat, always happy to answer questions. Now on this schedule, it doesn't show my morning schedule, but I am on the mic almost every morning. The only reason why it's not technically on the schedule is because if it's a no trade day, then I might not jump on the mic if I'm too busy with the kids or something else. I might just say, hey, no trade day, we'll talk about it later kind of thing. But every valid trade day, I'm on the mic, I jump on, even if it's for a short period, and we'll walk through the entire 15-minute morning setup. So you guys can expect me each morning. I know a lot of you in the small lot room know that I'm oftentimes in there. We have a lot of fun. So if you want any more information, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. The fastest way to do so is either to call or email customer support. So if you have a question about the pricing, or if you just have some follow-up questions for myself, please don't hesitate to reach out. Most of the customer support people will oftentimes know the answer to the questions you might be asking, but if it is a more intense question that I might not I might be the only one to know the answer to, right? Please don't hesitate to still reach out to them. That's probably the fastest way to get a response from me, unless you're asking me live on the mic in the room, because they ping me right away. I get them the response and they can get it right back to you. So if you have any follow-up questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. I'm more than happy to answer them, and I'll take some time to answer some questions here in just a second. If you like the idea of maybe doing the annual package, but you want to try and break apart that payment, we do have a way through PayPal to do interest-free payments where you can break it apart through 6 months. Now, once again, that's through PayPal, so that's something that you would have to do through them in order to do. But it is a great way to maybe break apart that elite package into smaller prices each month, and ideally, right, maybe using the strategy to help you out with that. So no promises, of course. I don't know what the future brings, but at least to date, this has been a very consistent strategy and it has been a lot of fun to trade. So once again, if you're not a Simpler member, but you want to sign up, we have the basic package at $297 for just the class and the information, the pro package at $697, which includes the class and the quarterly subscription to the small lot trading room. And if you really know that you want to follow along with the strategy for the next year, you want to see that consistency for yourself, see how to implement the trade, really know that you have an understanding of what you're doing so you can go off and do it for yourself, then feel free to join with the elite package where you get the full year of the trading room. So basically you get a full year of live trading days each day with this strategy, right? Instead of just doing 2 weeks of live trading with this class, like I said, I really wanted you guys to be able to dive in with it. And because we already do it every morning in the small lots room, come and join me for the next year. And you can literally have a full year of live trading with me with this strategy on top of the class this Saturday. And once again, there is membership pricing. So if you're a Simpler member, please make sure you're logged in. And like I said, if you are logged in and you're not seeing that pricing and you think you should, don't hesitate to reach out. Customer support is great about helping everybody out and making sure that they're, paying the correct price and everything like that, and answering any questions that you guys might have. So some of the common questions, you might have already asked them in the chat. Let me see if I can answer them now. And then, of course, if we have any follow-up questions, I'm more than happy to take that time to answer it here tonight. But is this suitable for beginners? Yes, I have actually just made videos. So if you've already purchased the class or you're going to purchase it, there are videos now in the room drive where I break things down for beginners, like questions that you might run into when opening a brokerage account, an introduction to the basics of options and futures, the importance of having a trading plan and a trading journal, right? So if you're very brand new to trading, I did create some videos. There are also the slides with those videos. All of those should already be in the room drive for the folder so that you have access to those, kind of do your homework before it's time for the class Saturday. Now you might ask yourself, what if you've never traded options? Like I said, that's where those beginner videos come in. And of course, I will teach you everything you need to know about the strategy, whether you're trading it from an option side or a future side on the class Saturday. Will this work for a small account? Yes, I trade small accounts. That is what I do. That has been my focus since day one of my trading. So absolutely, you can trade this in a small account. I would argue as small as an $1,000 account could work for this strategy. You might give yourself a tiny bit more, but I think 1,000 would be a good baseline for a small account or higher, with the kind of risk involved in SPX. And if you wanted to do futures, then doing the smaller micro size. And then what if you can't attend live? Don't worry. Everything we do here at Simpler is recorded. So even if you can't attend live, if you want to take advantage of that $100 discount or the membership pricing before the class day, before that expires, you can still purchase it, and then you'll still get access to the class recording and everything else. So even if you can only join for maybe a portion on Saturday, or you're already too busy, you have family plans, you can't join in, but you still want to get that discounted rate, then you can sign up now and you'll still get access to the class later. And of course, if you sign up for the Pro and Elite package, you'll have access to the room. Please don't hesitate to ask me any questions in the small lots trading room. I'm always happy to answer your questions, whether it's around this strategy or anything else involved with trading in general. And then what if I already use indicators? You can. I use plenty of indicators for my swing trades myself. But with this strategy, you really don't need any. And as I mentioned before, and people in the small lot room can tell you this, but before I used to actually have my indicators on there, and it sometimes would make me take the profit too quickly. Like I said, cover my risk a little bit too soon, and I would end up leaving money on the table. And so that's why I've actually taken all the indicators off of that ES chart to try and make me stick to my own rules, right? Not let my emotions guide me when I see something that I'm a little bit concerned about, right? Like running into a moving average, and then just letting it go about its day. And like I said, most of the time, by staying robotic with the rules, it certainly allows for much better win rate than what I did when I had the indicators on there. So you can use the indicators, don't let me stop you, but they are certainly not needed. And then is this good for experienced traders? Absolutely. My dad was actually the one who introduced me to this chart pattern. It was something that he was back testing himself while trading futures. And he has me sometimes help him out with his account and management whenever he's busy. So I was helping him back test and manage it. And I was like, man, this is really consistent. And then I was like, well, if there's a way we're doing this on futures, there has to be a way to do this on SPX. And then when I started to see that correlation, and then I broke down all the details with SPX, that's when I really started to like the strategy, and why I've been alerting it to the room ever since. So it's absolutely for experienced traders. As you saw, even John took this trade. He definitely has more experience than I do with trading. So, you can too. And then where can I get the trade alerts? All of the trade alerts for this strategy will be done in the small lots room. Like I said, I'm on the mic there every morning. Oftentimes we're, jumping in on the trigger at the same time live on the mic. I'm sending out the alert, getting the fills in real time, talking it through with you guys. We talk about the target, what a reversal may look like, the strikes, the levels, all of that we walk through each and every day with each and every setup that we run across in the first 15 minutes. So let's see if I have any other questions that maybe I have not answered. Let me find the question box. And then what platform do I use for my charting? I use Thinkorswim, but for my trade execution, I typically use Tasty or Tradeabate for futures. So those are the ones I use. And then Victor, I walk through how to set this up for SPX. So technically, no, it doesn't work for a 25-point wide butterfly. And I will explain that in the class, why you're looking at 5-point width spreads versus something wider, and the pros and cons for if you go wider. So that is something I have looked at. It's something we've actually discussed recently as well in the small lots room. Somebody else brought that up. And so because of that, it's been overall pretty nice, but we do have a very, like I said, strict set of rules, and they're rules for a reason. That's what's made it successful. And yeah, you can use any platform, does not matter. If you have a certain futures or options platform that you like to use, that is all dealer's choice, right? That's all up to you, absolutely. Another question I see, the market moves very fast. We might not get the same price for the option than the one in the alert. How to deal with that? How much more should we expect to pay? So that's a great question. Oftentimes when I see the trigger, I immediately start to work on a fill. Now at a certain point, I do not chase, and I will explain that in the class on kind of where you stop chasing the price. Sometimes what ends up happening, like today, is we get the initial trigger and then it immediately pulls back. So you can actually get a favorable fill on working your way back up. And then there are times in the room where I'll get a fill and then some of you guys go out there bragging, I got a better fill than you. And I love seeing that personally, because I know that if I'm happy with my fill and you guys get a better fill than me, then that just means hopefully you guys are going to end up making more money than me. So the market does move pretty fast. There have been 1 or 2 days where I've missed the setup because it has moved that quickly. But even like I said, that last week, whenever we had like a 500-point range, I was still taking this setup on those valid trade days and able to get fills for the most part. So it can happen every now and then. There are also ways on futures and on options actually where you can set up orders, condition orders, basically to say, okay, if the price reaches this, it triggers for this alert to be, start working and get filled. So there are ways you can do that. I'm familiar with that on futures. I'm not so familiar with it on options, but I know it is possible. Personally, I just, as soon as it hits the trigger, I immediately am already set up, ready to go working and filling the order manually myself. So I don't do that, but it is possible. Absolutely. Um, and then let me see here. And then, yes, the pattern day trading rule. Thank you. So I do not trigger the pattern day trading rule using this strategy at all, trading SPX. I do use 0-day expiration, but I use a strategy called profit recycling, which will be taught in the class for anyone not familiar with it. And by using this strategy, I completely avoid the pattern day trading rule. This is actually a strategy I've been trading for a very long time. I've just adapted it to this 15-minute chart setup, and it's worked beautifully. But I do not close out of anything, right? Because I trade in small accounts, so I am limited to my day trades per week. And the rules have gotten very strict on that. You can only break that pattern day trading rule once in an account in the lifetime of the account for a forgive me, please. And then after that, if you hit it, you're either waiting 3 months for it to unlock again, or you have to have an account above 25,000. And I am not John Carter. I don't have that kind of cash lying around, right? I have 3 little kids that certainly needed with the therapy and stuff. So I don't have that. So I use profit recycling to completely avoid the pattern day trading rule. And I will teach about that so that you too can take intraday moves, not even just the 15-minute setup if you want. You could use this on any sort of intraday chart. But you can use the strategy to take advantage of intraday moves without technically day trading them for 0-day expiration. Another question, can you use SPY for this? You probably can. I have not back tested that myself. One, I'm a sucker for SPX. I love SPX. I love the cash settlement there. I love the liquidity. So that's oftentimes my go-to. On SPY, you do need to be mindful of assignment on shares. So I would argue if you do try this strategy on SPY, you might consider going 1 day further out on your expiration if you're trying to avoid the pattern day trading rule. That way you could still profit recycle and use that bit of the strategy to avoid it, but you won't have the risk of assignment with it being the same day expiration. So it's not something I've back tested, but it's probably viable. And certainly XSP is another way you could trade this. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, Lorna, it might not be as liquid as SPX, but it is a smaller contract size. So if you want that cash settlement, but you want that cheaper cost basis than SPX, you could consider that. But that being said, our risk on SPX is usually pretty small. On an initial entry, I don't think I've ever paid more than 250. I think 250 is even high. I don't think I've paid that much, maybe 270. And that was when it was in that extreme volatility. Otherwise, our capital risk usually stays pretty small. And typically, once again, per the rules that I'll teach in the class, we're usually not risking that full amount in general. So we do try and keep the risk small when trading it on SPX. And then how do this perform in the tariff tantrums? It performs, right? I would argue that one of the benefits of the volatility is we've seen where we get the trigger and the fill in the same bar. So we can be in and out of the trade really quickly for that nice profit. I will say on the option side, the increase in volatility has mean the option premium has increased. So what I have noticed is the profit target has sometimes come down a little bit compared to the profits that I was able to make in November, December, February, and even March of this past year. So the increased volatility has caused a slight spike in premium, where on the option side, our profits locking them in have been a little bit smaller, but they've still been consistent. Like, for example, today I still locked in a 50-cent profit and was able to walk away and still had a bonus trade on the table. I think last week we locked in a win and then we had a bonus profit on cash settlement of like 297 or something. So it's certainly still viable in this volatility. That's, I think, one of my favorite things about this strategy is when we had those 500 point ranges, I was like, ooh, I wonder how this is going to do. And it's still worked beautifully. So I have no complaints about it. And the average percent gain per trade, yeah, I don't have that. I do keep a pretty detailed spreadsheet on the SPX side of this strategy. So like I said, to date, we have a 72% win rate, 28% losing rate. Our average winner on SPX, so mind you, this is options. Our average winner on SPX is $1.25. Our average loser is 94 cents. So I hope that kind of helps. I don't technically have a percent gain, but I hope that maybe helps answer whatever question you're looking for there. And that's, of course, following the rules, not taking the no trade days. And this is why we don't take the no trade days. So as you can see, the average winner on a no trade day is 126. Your average loser is $1.60. Your average winner does not upset your average loser. That's why we don't trade those. That's why we follow the rules. So hope that helps you out. And then the class is on Saturday. Yes, it will be live. So it will be from 12 p.m. Central, oftentimes to 4. We'll take a little bit of a break in between. And then, of course, that will be recorded. So if you can't join live, you can certainly follow along with the recording. Usually pretty fast about getting that out after, the live session's done. So it's usually a quick turnaround on when you can see that recording in the class drive and folder. And the basic option is just the class Saturday. Yes, that's it. So if you feel like you can understand the strategy from just the class, you don't feel the need to follow along with any live trading, then the basic package is for you. But if you want kind of a little bit more hand holding to make sure that you're understanding all the rules and that you understand the strategy so that you can go off and do it for yourself, then definitely consider either the pro or elite package, because you can either have 3 months of live trading or a full year of live trading doing the strategy. And like I said, I'm on the mic every morning. It's a valid trade, and we walk through together exactly what all the rules are for that day based on the entire rule system of the setup itself. And how many days are a no trade day? Good question. Let me go back to my spreadsheet here. Spreadsheet. Okay, let me find it. So out of the total trades taken, so technically if you took every single trade taken, there was 110. And you can see taking the no trade days, it's still not a bad win-loss rate, but it's not as good as excluding the no trade days. But out of the total number of trades taken, 110, 32 of them were no trade days. So 78 trades since mid-November to today is how many trades we've had on this strategy so far. So, not too many, but they do live out there. There are a few different rules around those. That's something I'll be teaching in the class on what constitute a no trade day and what to look out for. But more often than not, we're on the mic trading this each morning. So it's been fun. And then how many contracts do I trade? I personally do one lot. So this spreadsheet that I've been tracking is all based on just a single one lot, whether you're doing a one lot on SPX on the options, whether you're doing a one lot on E-mini or a micro on futures, right? Depending on what contract size you're doing. I do it as a one lot. Now, there are plenty of traders in the small lot rooms who have larger risk tolerances, larger size accounts. And I'll see them do multiple contracts. And sometimes what they'll do, like Rush comes to my brain, for example, he'll jump in, he'll follow the rules and hit target, and he'll cover maybe one of his contracts, and then he'll let another runner go. And I will say in this volatility, it's not been bad to have a runner on. I've seen him a lot of times take additional profits because of that. But for myself personally, I oftentimes just do one contract. And it's nice to, get used to the strategy, get to understanding it. This isn't a strategy that's necessarily like get rich quick, right? That's not the case, but it's a consistent strategy. And it's consistently helped to grow my account because of it. So it's not like a day where you, try and pick and choose. You try and show up each day And when it's a valid trade day, you take it. And that, of course, doesn't mean if you're busy one day, you have to take it, right? That's up to you. But the idea is you try and show up each morning so that you can take the strategy so that consistency follows through, as you've seen within the webinar and as you've seen within the spreadsheet that I've just shared with you guys. And for those of you interested in the spreadsheet, I do have a blank, basically template of that spreadsheet. So if you take the class, you do have access to that if you wanted to follow along that way as well. I know some of you guys have asked about that too. And then I'm not sure what John's contract size was, but obviously John has a much higher risk tolerance than myself. So he, seemed to have been following along with the strategy enough to where he was okay with that risk tolerance when he jumped in, and it certainly paid off for him that day. So I'm sure he doesn't have much complaints on it. And then how much do I earn daily on this strategy? That will depend sometimes on the volatility of the market. So back in maybe November, December, in a more traditional trending market, it wasn't uncommon for me to get 100% returns on my risk, easily $1 profit, $1.70. And this is specifically on the option side, and that's because the option premium was lower, right? Because volatility was lower. More recently, it's been about 50 cents on the SPX side. Now, that doesn't include any sort of bonus trades. We've had bonus trades recently. We've had bonus trades, back in a less volatile market. So bonus trades, that's completely different. But on SPX, that profit has gone down a little bit with this extreme volatility that we've been in, but still profitability. On futures, the volatility doesn't really matter because the target always remains the same throughout the different market environments. So that, if you're trading a mini, is $1,000 of a profit that you're always looking for. If you're trading a micro, which hopefully I didn't switch those around in my brain, you're looking for $100 for the profit target each day. And so from there, depending on what your risk tolerance is, you can size up and down those contracts accordingly if you're trading futures. Awesome, Lorna. I'm for those of you who don't know, I'm dyslexic, and so for whatever reason, micro and mini, I keep switching them up in my brain. I think I even sent out a tweet today where I said micro and I meant mini, so I'm glad I got it right for once. I know what I trade when I put it and execute it on the trading platform, so And yes, no indicators involved in this strategy. So when I trade this setup, I don't use any indicators. Here's, my chart that I look at each morning in the small lots room with you guys to identify the setup. I don't use any indicators on it at all. I have found, like I said, indicators usually keep me from getting that bigger profit. I'll oftentimes cover too quickly and I'll take the smaller win because I'm mindful of risk. But the downside is that emotion that I sometimes let sneak in because I'm being so mindful of it has left me money on the table. So I've taken it all off so I can be as strict to the rules as possible, trying to follow along. And then, yes, you can set it and forget it. Absolutely. Now I have alerts set up so that way I know when we reach target or if it all of a sudden stops me out for a reversal, I can immediately take action. But for the most part, yeah, you can set it and then walk away. Like I said, I got filled today on the SPX side of the trade this morning. When I was dropping the kids off from school, I heard a ping on my phone. I waved by. I walked to the car. I pulled out my phone. And I was like, oh, I got a fill on this. Let me send out an alert really quickly on the phone through the simpler trading app to say I got a fill. So yeah, absolutely. And then nothing's based on overnight activity. Absolutely not. You get all of your information within the first 15 minutes of market. That's why I love this strategy. You do not have to worry about overnight moves. You don't have to worry about what the trend of the market is. You don't have to worry about, the macros, what the Fed's going to do. None of that matters with this strategy. You literally wake up each morning and you start your day fresh. You start with a fresh setup and then you just trade it based off the rules. It's very robotic. It's very mechanical. No subjectivity behind it. Like I said, my entry and my target will be the same as your entry and target. It will be the same as the next person. As long as you follow the rules, it's there. And I do have a cheat sheet. So I'll explain this all very much in depth in the class. But I am in the process of making a cheat sheet that should be ready by Saturday. So if you want just a cheat sheet of the rules, right, you don't want to have to go flipping through the slides or watching the entire class again. You'll have that available to you each morning, that if you want to print it out or just have it on your desktop so that you can look at it to remind yourself, it will be available for you each day. And then it's just the one trade. It's one setup. Now you might have a trade, and then if you get stopped out, there could be a reversal entry. So in that case, technically you might have two trades that you take based off the one setup, but it's always one setup each morning. It's always that first 15 minutes, and then it works or not works, and then you rinse and repeat and go to it the next day. And I get it, guys. So yeah, if you're around the world, it's late at night. I get it. Sleep on it. Think about it. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out, guys. Like I said, I'm more than happy to help answer it. Customer support is more than happy to help answer it. If they don't know the answer, which they know the answer to a lot of things, but if they don't, they'll reach out to me and I'll give them that answer for you. But thank y'all so much for joining me. As always, may the trade be with you, my fellow Jedis. And I look forward to hopefully seeing you guys Saturday and potentially in the small lots room tomorrow. But have a wonderful night, y'all. Bye.